Everyone has a part to play in building a more respectful society. Parliamentary Secretary for Communications and Information, Rahayu Mahzam, says this could start with women calling out inappropriate actions and men standing up against conversations which are derogatory to women. Leisha Rodney reports.
There seems to be a focus on tackling online harms in the white paper. Is this a trend that we're seeing now? Are there more of such sexual offences in the online realm?
Singapore is a generally safe place where women feel comfortable going out at night, but we are starting to see a lot more hurt and sexual offences happening in the online realm, and you start seeing things like sexual grooming, offences that are facilitated by digital means, revenge porn, or non-consensual sharing of explicit photos online. I think there needs to be some action taken. So we want to make sure that women continue to feel safe, and this is what we call the digital safety gap, where we want to make sure that that same level of comfort and assurance that we have in the real world is also translated in the online space.
In order for victims to not feel ashamed or fearful about reporting sexual offences and violence, what can Singapore do for a shift in mindset towards such offences?
We need to make sure that firstly the environment is conducive and safe for victims of the offences to be able to report. So for one, we actually have the National Anti-Violence Helpline, which facilitates communication of reporting in case there's violence against women. We are expanding this to also include sexual offences and harassment, and so those victims can also call on this hotline to actually make their reports, and this I think will allow for that convenience and also facilitate the reporting. But beyond that, I think we also need to have the whole of community be non-judgmental, also be really considerate and looking out for people, because some of this can be exhibited through behaviours.
How can the process of reporting abuse be simplified such that victims don't feel overwhelmed?
There is a platform for victims of violence to be actually interviewed through one platform, so that they're not repeatedly asked about what has happened to them and that will re-traumatize them. So these are efforts that we have in place to facilitate the reporting and to actually obtain that information in a safe and empathetic manner from the victims.
Let's talk about what happens after reporting and dive deeper into employees who report workplace harassments. What measures are in place to ensure that they're well protected, and how is this accounted for across all companies?
We actually have the TAFAP Harassment Resource Centre, where they actually provide the necessary guidance and support to employers to actually assist employees in matters where there has been a complaint of harassment. And I think this is an important effort, because we want employers to also take this seriously. Because of that, we also see the tripartite guidelines for fair employment practices, which actually requires employers to have mechanisms in place to allow for this reporting and proper investigation to be done. And these are things that are also augmented by the tripartite advisory on managing workplace harassment. And I think employers are encouraged and employees are also given that assurance that there is a platform for them to make their reports, and that employer will take into account the all matters and look into it seriously.
There's revised sentencing and stricter penalties for those who commit sexual and hurt offences. How is this important in deterrence, and what more can be done to proactively deter such offences in the first place?
We want to make sure that the penalty is commensurate to the harm that has been suffered by the victim survivor. And I think that's important to send that signal and message. But at the same time, it's an effort that needs to extend beyond just a symbolic effort. We also need to make sure that there's education, and we need to do this upstream. So children from the outset, through their education, we need to actually inculcate moral values and teach them respect for each other. But at the same time, we all play a part in this And I think in each individual action, there's values. For example, for men to really stand up against this and say no to conversations that are derogatory against women, to not participate in locker room talks, for women to actually educate when they see and call out certain actions which are inappropriate. So I think these steps will go a long way towards us building a society which is respectful of both men and women, and that we will then also be able to look out and protect for each other.
There is more help available for abuse victims, and it's just a phone call away. From May, the National Anti-Violence Helpline will also attend to those who are experiencing sexual harassment. 12 more operators are undergoing training to add to the existing 29. The helpline received 9,900 calls from January 2021 to February this year, with an average of around 700 monthly. Lines are open round the clock, and at any one time, there will be 5 to 11 operators on duty.
We will first gather information to assess the severity of the situation from the caller. After that, we will gather and verify information from different sources, such as schools, family members, and relatives. A preliminary risk assessment and safety assessment will also be conducted to determine the response time and assess which is the most suitable touch point to engage the family. For the assessment, we use research-based tools to guide our decision making.